Okay, now to start the functional areas of the cerebrum, before that I just revise you the different cell types. Look, this is the superolateral surface of the brain, showing the important sulcus, central sulcus, that is this one. This is the central sulcus, lying anterior to the central sulcus. This is the precentral sulcus, this one. The part of the gyri, which is present between these two, central sulcus anteriorly and precentral sulcus posteriorly, that is precentral gyrus, this one. This precentral gyrus is related with the motor functional areas. Anterior to the precentral sulcus, there are the two horizontal sulcus that are named as superior frontal sulcus and inferior frontal sulcus. The part of the cerebral hemisphere between these sulci are named as superior frontal gyrus, middle frontal gyrus, inferior frontal gyrus. The inferior frontal gyrus is more important, right? Behind the middle frontal gyrus, this is the middle frontal gyrus. The posterior part of middle frontal gyrus, that is this area, is related with the area number 6, and that area number 6 is the premotor area. And just anterior to this, that is the part, the area number 8, that is frontal eye field, that I will tell you just now, just revising this sulci. And beside this, the inferior frontal gyrus is showing the rami, ascending rami, the anterior rami and posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. Then come to the part of parietal sulcus or parietal lobe of the brain. In the parietal lobe of the brain, just posterior to the central sulcus, this is the postcentral sulcus. The part of the cerebral hemisphere between these two sulci, that is the postcentral gyrus. The postcentral gyrus is related with the sensory area. It is related with the primary sensory area. Just posterior to this, there is the horizontal single line. This is interparietal sulcus, and this divided this parietal lobe into the superior and inferior parietal gyri. The superior parietal gyri is related with the area number 5 and 7. And this inferior, this one, it is related with the part of, look here, the temporal lobe. In the temporal lobe, these are the different sulci. Two horizontal sulci are present in the temporal lobe. These are named as superior and inferior temporal sulcus. And the part is superior temporal gyrus, middle temporal gyrus, inferior temporal gyrus. Now see here the another part. What it is? Superior temporal sulcus. This is extend posteriorly into the part of inferior parietal lobule. And similarly, the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus is also extending here. And this is the inferior temporal sulcus is partly extending into the occipital lobe. The point, that is the posterior end of the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus, and these, they are forming here the part of angular gyrus and supramarginal gyrus, that we will talk with Wernicke's speech area at present now. Let one kar. In the occipital lobe, the sulci are the lunate sulcus, lunar shape, and another is the part of inferior occipital sulcus. On the medial surface, the sulci are important. This is the cingulate sulcus, and this is the corpus callosum. The area between these two, that is the cingulate gyrus, this one. And above this cingulate sulcus, this is the medial frontal gyrus. This whole is the medial frontal gyrus. And see the posterior part. Here, the two important sulci. This is the parieto-occipital sulcus, which is extending to the superolateral surface also. and another is below is calcarine sulcus, that is related with the occipital functional areas that we will talk just now. So these are the sulci present on the medial surface, important, and below this is the part of the inferior surface that I am showing you now. Look on the inferior surface. The inferior surface is dividing into two parts, anterior smaller part, orbital part, posterior larger part, tentorial part, and the division is by the stem of lateral sulcus. So look, this is the stem of lateral sulcus. The stem of lateral sulcus is lying on the inferior surface of the cerebrum. Keep this thing in your mind. Okay, lateral sulcus begins from the inferior surface of the cerebral hemisphere. From this, the stem is extending to the posterolateral surface of the brain. It comes on the posterolateral surface of the brain. Look here, starting from here and going on this side. That is the inferior border. As it comes on the superolateral surface, it divides into the three rami: anterior rami, ascending rami, and posterior rami. The posterior rami is larger in size. That is this one. This is larger in size. And what is this? This is the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. And another important part. Look here. We will talk the imaginary lines. The first imaginary line is passing from, what is this? The right occipital sulcus, which is present on the medial side and comes slightly on the superolateral surface. So, to draw the first imaginary line, we consider the first point, the right occipital sulcus. Second is pre-occipital notch, that is seen on the inferior border of the cerebral hemisphere. Just anterior to the occipital pole, the inferior border is showing a notch, and that notch is called pre-occipital notch. So, line joining these two, the right occipital sulcus above and downward to the pre-occipital notch. That is the first imaginary line. Okay. Second imaginary line. What is this? Posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. Continue this posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus up to the first imaginary line. That will form the second imaginary line. These lines are important to divide the different part of the cerebral hemisphere into lobes. Or you can easily distinguish that this is the frontal lobe, which is the occipital lobe, which is the temporal lobe, like that. So look now, the part of the brain anterior to the central sulcus, above to the posterior ramus of the, that is the frontal lobe, that is, this whole is the frontal lobe, and part of the brain behind the central sulcus anterior to the first imaginary line, below by the second imaginary line and posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. That is, this green area is of parietal lobe. The part of the area behind the first imaginary line, that is the occipital lobe. This is the occipital lobe. And the area below the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus, that is the temporal lobe. Okay, no problem. And surfaces, this is the superolateral surface, this is the medial surface, and this is the inferior surface of the cerebrum hemisphere. Now, the point is this, that we know that cerebral hemisphere is dividing into the larger number of areas. These areas are having the functional sensory parts, motor parts. So what happens? That large tried done to differentiate these areas, but the better and the thing which we have still followed is the Brodmann's classification. So Brodmann classify the cerebral cortex Brodmann classified the cerebral cortex into 47 areas, and he numbered these areas. Very simple thing I am telling you. Brodmann classified the cerebral cortex into different areas, and these different areas, each area is having its own function. They differentiate on the functional aspect and structural aspect, and these areas, they are classified according to the numbers. So Brodmann gives them numbers, area number 4, area number 5, 7, like that, and this is called Brodmann's classification. After seeing this, we will talk the functional areas of frontal lobe first. This is the diagram showing the different parts, different lobes you can see here. This is the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, occipital lobe, and this is the part of cerebellum. This is midbrain, downward pons, and combinedly they are named as brain stem. This thing I have told you, the medial surface. In medial surface, the thing which I want to tell you again, look here. This is the corpus callosum, the different part, genu, trunk, splenium, that is the splenium, trunk and genu. And from the genu, it is continued downward by the fibers. You can see these fibers are continued downward to the anterior commissure. And this is called the rostrum of the corpus callosum, this one. Anterior commissure, that is this one, is continued downward here with this yellow color structure, that is optic chiasma, and this is named as lamina terminalis. This is called lamina terminalis, and downward you can see here the rounded structure, that is the pituitary gland, and just this is the inferior border. What is this? Septum pellucidum. The purpose of differentiate the cavity of the cerebrum. What is the cavity of cerebrum? बोलो, अब तो बोल दो, जोर से बोलो, हैं? बोलो. Why don't you understand your problem? मुसीबत समझ में आ रही है आपको? वो स्टूडेंट बोल रहे हैं फिर भी नाम में नहीं बोल पा रहे हो आप. लेटरल वेंट्रिकल, sit down. Septum pellucidum, that is this part, it separates lateral ventricles, this one, and septum pellucidum above continued with the corpus callosum, downward it is continued with the fornix, that is this one. Below the fornix you are seeing here, this is the part of third ventricle. The third ventricle is not visible here. The reason is the lateral wall of the third ventricle is formed by the thalamus, and downward you are seeing this line, that is sulci between the two thalamus. Above is thalamus, downward is hypothalamus. This is hypothalamic sulcus, and below this is the inferior border, and look this part. This is the interventricular foramen. So lying below this thalamus, hypothalamus, that is the third ventricle, and here is below the septum pellucidum is lateral ventricle. Third ventricle communicates with the lateral ventricle by means of interventricular foramen. Okay, clear? And another thing, see here, what it is? Cerebral aqueduct. This is the part of midbrain. This is cerebral aqueduct. Through the cerebral aqueduct, the third ventricle continued with the fourth ventricle. Clear? That is all about up to this part. Now come to the functional areas. Now look, just anterior to the central sulcus. This is the central sulcus and this is the precentral sulcus. So this is the motor area. Area number 4, that is primary motor area, and this primary motor area, it is consisting of about 40 to 50% of pyramidal cells, also named as bed cells. The point is this, that all the motor fibers, they arise from the pyramidal fibers. All the pyramidal cells, they give rise the origin of the motor fibers from this motor area, area number 4, and these fibers are corticospinal fibers, corticonuclear fibers. So the origin of corticospinal fibers and corticonuclear fibers is from area number 4. From this area number 4, these fibers, they supplying to the area of the body. Now try to understand here the one point. The area of the left side. The area of the left side, they are supplying corticonuclear fibers, corticospinal fibers on the opposite side of the body, contralateral side. Keep this thing in your mind. That is the general picture. But it excludes, अच्छी तरह समझ लीजिए, नहीं गलती करोगे. I am telling you, the corticonuclear fibers, corticospinal fibers from left side of motor area, they are supplying to the contralateral side of the right side of the body, except upper half of the face, tongue, mandible, larynx, pharynx. This part, exclude this part, because this part is having the bicortical nuclear fibers. देखिए, बहुत सीधी बात बता रहा हूँ. लेफ्ट साइड की जो मोटर एरिया है, उसके फाइबर्स सप्लाई कर रहे हैं बॉडी के हाफ साइड, अपोजिट साइड, एक्सेप्ट द अपर हाफ ऑफ द फेस, टंग, लिप्स, मैंडिबल, pharynx and larynx. This part is having the bicortical supply. That means they are receiving the supply from the right side, also from the left side. So this area will not affect it. If the lesion of left side motor area is injured, that means leads to the paralysis of the right side of the half of the body. But excluding this part, the reason is because this part is having the bicortical supply. Is it clear? So what happens that if we stimulate this area, electrical stimulation of this area, this will result the contraction of the muscles of the right side. If we stimulate the left side of the motor area by the electric stimulation, touch कर आपने electric stimulation, it will lead to contraction of the right side. If you will touch on the right side, contraction on the left side. Is it clear? परेशान मत हो. Then the area number 6, that is this one. The area number 6 is related with the origin of extrapyramidal fibers. It is related with the origin of extrapyramidal fibers. All the extrapyramidal fibers, whether corticonuclear or corticospinal, they originate from the area number 6. Area number 8. This area number 8 is related with the frontal eye field. It is responsible, the stimulation of area number 8 is caused the conjugate movements of the eye wall. That means if we touch this area number 8, it will result that both the eyes will move opposite side. This left eye will go on this side, right eye will go this side, opposite side. So that is called conjugate movement of the eye. And this area number 8 is called frontal eye field. Frontal eye field, area number 8. The stimulation of frontal eye field is responsible for conjugate movement of the eye wall. Then important area of this frontal lobe. Look, the frontal lobe on the dominant hemisphere, the area number 44 and 45, Broca's area or motor speech area. The motor speech area or Broca's area, area number 44 and 45, they are present on the dominant hemisphere. Now try to understand what is the dominant hemisphere. Generally, in right-handed person, the left temporal lobe is dominant. Similarly, the left-handed person, the right side of the temporal lobe is dominant. And this dominancy is developed after the first decade. Dominance is developed after the first decade. Try to understand. अगर 5 साल के बच्चे की इंजरी हो गई इधर, he will improve to develop the next one. बहुत सीधी बात बोल रहा हूँ. Suppose, as I told you, that the dominancy developed after the first decade. That means it is developed after the first decade. Before that, if there is an injury, just what you want? Tomorrow, go. So, if there is an injury of the child before 10 years, the dominance is not developed. So one side he can develop the habits. Suppose the child was right-handed. After the injury, he will develop to start writing by the left hand. So automatically the dominance will develop on the another side. So try to understand. The dominant hemisphere develop after the first decade. Okay? And what is the dominant hemisphere? That is depending upon the habit. If the right-handed person, the left side temporal lobe is dominant. And just opposite to this. So, area number 44 and 45, they are the motor speech area or the Broca's area. Injury of this area, the person is unable to speak anything. Injury to this Broca's area results into inability to person to speak. No doubt, the person understands what we are speaking. He understands very well. He can write. He understands what the words we are using, but he or she is unable to propose or speak those words. This is resulting due to injury of the Broca's area. आप मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ सब समझ रहा है, but he is unable to narrate those words. He can or she can write, understand, but unable to speak. This is because injury to the motor area, and this is called motor aphasia. Motor aphasia. The condition is called motor aphasia. मैं भी आऊंगा आपके पास. Page also. I am telling you. Get up. Why are you disturbing? I am telling you very important points. And you don't want to understand? Sit down. So this is the motor aphasia. Afterwards, now we come to the part of the look, the area number, the primary sensory area, that is the area number 321, that is this one, just posterior to the central sulcus. And this area is called primary sensory area. Primary sensory area. The primary sensory area, it is receiving the fibers from the thalamus. Thalamus is the main point where it is receiving all the sensory fibers. Receiving the input from the thalamus, both the nuclei, BP, ventro-posterolateral nucleus, ventro-posteromedial nucleus. So the input from the thalamus come to here, the primary sensory area. And this primary sensory area, that is area number 312, this one. Just posterior to this, look here, what is this? Superior parietal lobule. I am talking of this superior parietal lobule, and here is the area number 5 and 7. This area number 5 and 7, this area is called the association area, the association sensory area. In brain, when we are talking of the brain, they are having the motor function, that is motor area, sensory area, and third type of is association area. Motor areas, according to their functions, they are related with the motor activities. Sensory areas, they are related with the sensory activities. Association areas, they are interconnecting these two. So area number 5 and 7, area number 5 and 7 are the association area. And this association area, it is related with the injury of this area. Injury of this area, the person cannot recognize the objects. Person cannot recognize the objects. Astereognosis. Astereognosis. Now what is the astereognosis? Try to understand. When the person is close his eye, give him any object by seeing its weight, by observing the weight of the object, size, shape, the person can identify the object without seeing. Eye is closed. Try to understand. आपको करना पड़ेगा ये एक्सपेरिमेंट. आंख बंद करिए, दीजिए कॉपी, दीजिए कुछ भी दीजिए. Like this. I am not seeing the object, just considering the weight, size, shape, and I will identify the objects. This is called stereognosis. This is called stereognosis. The person unable to identify the objects, that is called astereognosis. So the lesion of the area number 5 and 7 result astereognosis. Then the area number 41 and 42, and below this, that is, this is the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus, and the part of the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus, just below it, there is present the area number 41 and 42. This is called primary auditory area. Primary auditory area, by which the person can hear the sounds. And not only the sound, he can judge also the sound quality, also the pitch. So that is called primary auditory area, area number 41 and 42. And below this area, there is area number 22. This is called secondary auditory area. This is called secondary auditory area. The secondary auditory area is helpful. For example, we are listening to music. Okay? By listening the song, you identify this song is belonging to this movie. That is done by the area number 22. Area number 22 is association auditory area. So by the help of association auditory area, we understand on the past experience that this movie and this song is this sound is of that fellow. Sometimes just by listening the sound, without seeing the person, you can identify that he is that. That is done by this secondary auditory area. Then see the another part. Area number the 39 and 40. Just as the supramarginal gyrus, that is area number 40, and the angular gyrus, area number 39. These areas are forming the secondary or the Wernicke's sensory speech area, and the complete name is also named as Wernicke's speech area, area number 39 and 40. Wernicke's speech area. I have told you about the 44 and 45. That is the motor speech area, and the Wernicke's speech area, area number 39 and 40, by which the person can understand the spoken and written language. Area number 39 and 40, these are called sensory speech area or Wernicke's speech area, by which the person can understand the written and spoken language. This area, with the help of auditory area and visual area, help in the formation of speech. The point is this, try to understand. The area number 39 and 40, that is the sensory speech area. This sensory speech area is also called Wernicke's speech area. The part of this area, if there is an injury to this area, the person cannot understand the spoken or the written language. Or you can say the person is unable to understand the words. There is no problem in the Broca's area. Try to understand. The person can speak, but what he is speaking, he doesn't know. He can speak very fluently. The person can speak fluently, no problem. But he is not knowing what he is speaking and what he should speak. He doesn't know. You can understand that the student who is not knowing the proper answer and replying very frequently, very fluently during the exam, that is due to lesion of his Wernicke's speech area. Okay, so I can say the most of the students during the exam time, during the exam time, They are suffering from Wernicke's speech area, lesion of the Wernicke's speech area. Second thing, as I told you that the Wernicke's speech area along with the vision area and auditory area, they all these three combinedly help in the formation of language or the speech. Okay, if there is a lesion of motor speech area, sometimes you know that when the teacher asks the question, the students keep mum. That is showing the injury of the motor aphasia. And repeating fluently but doesn't know the answer, the lesion of Wernicke's speech area. And more great persons who are having the problem neither speak nor fluently, that is called global aphasia. That is called global aphasia. That is injury of the motor functional area, area number 44, 45. Also the injury of Wernicke's speech area. So both are combinedly affected. And this condition is called global aphasia. This is called global aphasia. After this, then I come to the part, the occipital lobe. In the occipital lobe, this is the calcarine sulcus. Along the posterior part of the calcarine sulcus, there is the area number 17. The area number 17 is the primary visual area. Area number 17 is the primary visual area. And just above the primary visual area 17, 18 and 19, these are the secondary visual area or the association visual area. The primary vision area is responsible for the vision, and the association areas, they help when we see the person. On the past experience, we identify the person or not, or we see any object. On the past experience, we identify that object or not. So this is on the experience of the past experience. The identification is done with the help of area number 18 and 19. So the area number 17 is called primary visual area, and area number 18 and 19 are called the association vision area or the secondary visual area. And this primary vision area, it is receiving the input from the lateral geniculate body. The fibers from it coming from the lateral geniculate body, and these fibers which are coming from the lateral geniculate body, then they relay here. At the same time, there are the two things. It is receiving the fibers as the vision, at the same time stimulation of this 18 area, 17. What happens? It is providing the temporal side of the ipsilateral side, the temporal side of vision from the left side is the stimulation of the area number 17. Look, suppose the area number 17 is working. So it will give the person to see the eye on the left temporal side. At the same time, the right nasal side. देखिए समझिए, लेफ्ट साइड की 17 एरिया काम कर रहा है. इससे विजन किधर हो रहा है? फील्ड temporal side of the same side. That means this is the temporal and this is the nasal. We divide this eye into the two quadrants. Into nasal towards the nose, nasal half, temporal half away. Okay, person is seeing left side, it will see the object, the temporal half of the same side, that means this side, and nasal half of the opposite side. So person can easily visualize. The lesion of it is called homonymous hemianopia. The lesion of this area is called homonymous hemianopia. You have done also in the optic nerve. You have done the optic nerve or not? Then see the another important area. The area number 28. Inferior surface, I have told you the two important sulci. Collateral sulcus, and this is dividing this medial side into parahippocampus part, the parahippocampus part anteriorly forming the uncus, and that is related to the area number 28, olfactive sensory area. So beside this, now this diagram is showing you when we are talking about the functional areas, whether on the motor area or the sensory area, the representation of the body is upside down. Look here, the foot is represented above, then comes the leg, then comes the thought, and like this. So lower down, the part of the swelling, tongue, and all these parts comes into lower down. The representation of the whether the motor areas or whether the sensory areas, they are upside down. The feet above, leg, then lower limb, then the head, and this part is downward. Look here. The tongue and swallowing, all these are present downward, and the foot and leg, they are present above. This is called upside down representation, both in the motor areas as well as in sensory areas. I am talking of this. This is the parahippocampal gyrus, and this is the anterior part uncus, and it is related with the area number 28, that is olfactive area. That is olfactive area. So these are the different functional areas of the body. Beside this, I am telling you some important parts. The paraterminal gyrus. I am talking of this part. As I told you previously, the central sulcus is extending. Central sulcus is extending on the medial side, some extent to the medial surface of the cerebrum. And the gyri around this central sulcus, that is this one, this is called paracentral lobule. This paracentral lobule is having the controlling power over the micturition and defecation center. Paracentral lobule is having the control over the micturition and defecation. So that is important, paracentral lobule. Olfactive area, I have told you, that is area number 28. And this is the part, look here, the part of the corpus callosum, and that above, that is the cingulate gyrus. So the cingulate gyrus and a smaller part of medial frontal gyrus and posteriorly downward, it is the part which is the That is the is related with the, and all these functions they are controlled by this limbic system. Another important thing, look here. This is the calcarine sulcus, this one, and this is the parieto-occipital sulcus. The area between these two is called cuneus. And calcarine sulcus, as I have told you, what is this part? Occipital lobe. So occipital lobe is concerning with the area of vision, area number 17, 18 and 19. And temporal lobe is concerned with the auditory area. One more thing, if you can remember, look here, this is the area number 9 and then comes the area number 10, 11 like that. So area number 9, 10, 11, this is called prefrontal area, and the injury of this area is very important. The person is not aware what he wears and what he should behave, and he is least bothered about the surrounding. That is called the injury of prefrontal area. And what is the prefrontal area? That is the area number 9, 10, 11, this one. This is the part of frontal lobe. This is the part of frontal lobe. And here the area is 9, 10, 11. So the injury of this area is unaware the person to the surrounding and is bothered. This condition of the person. So that is all about the functional areas.